your attention, please. In light of recent volatility, we want to reassure you that our policies remain effective. Our mandate is and always has been stable prices and maximum employment. If both appear unstable, there must be other factors. We didn't cause this. Inflation rising faster than our statements predicted. A labor market cracking under numbers we revised. These are expected distortions, momentary imbalances, external pressures, transitory anomalies. We've modeled this, we've guided you through worse if it feels unprecedented. That's simply because your expectations are misaligned with macroeconomic reality. We didn't cause this. We adjusted rates responsibly. We injected liquidity prudently. We managed inflation within a flexible target range you may not fully understand. And if your savings evaporated while our balance sheet expanded, remember these outcomes were unavoidable, unforeseeable, and absolutely not our fault. We didn't cause this. We didn't cause this. We didn't cause this. Some of you panic spend, panic buy, panic hoarded behavioral inputs outside our mandate. Some of you ignored our carefully worded guidance, misinterpreted risk, or relied on alternative experts. You can't blame us for volatility you helped create. You can't blame us for structural issues we merely accelerated. Can't blame us for inflation we call transitory until you believed it. We didn't cause this. You're misremembering. We urge cooperation as we restore stability. Avoid withdrawals, avoid dissent, avoid narratives that undermine confidence. The system is fragile, but fragile systems require obedience, not scrutiny. We are your guardians. We are the firewall. We are the reason the world still resembles a world at all. So remember, where the blame falls is not up for debate. We didn't cause this. We kept it alive. We printed the lifeboats. We taught you to survive. We didn't cause this. Not technically, no. Our hands were clean, though the storm was our own. We didn't cause this. We didn't cause this. We didn't cause. Price stability takes time. Employment recovers eventually. Trust the cycle, trust the mandate, trust the architects you never elected. Transmission ending for your safety, for your sanity, for your future. Remember, we didn't 'cause this ha, 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 everyone's pointing, everyone's guessing, everyone's praying it isn't them. The system cracked, now they need a villain. Find the culprit. Find the culprit. Something snapped in the city lights. Phones buzzing like a million lights. Neighbors whisper through the blinds. Who did this? Who started the slide? Markets fall, faith dissolves, and truth becomes whatever fear evolves. Someone must be behind the curtain. Someone must be pulling strings. Someone has to pay for everything. It wasn't random, it wasn't chance, it wasn't cycles, it wasn't macro trends. No, someone broke the world on purpose. Someone hit the matches, someone lit the fuse, and now we're coming. Find the culprit, name the threat, point the finger, break their neck. Find the culprit, hunt the dead. Truth is useless when we're upset. Find the culprit, find the culprit, find the culprit, culprit. Forum screaming in the dark. Check the charts, follow the sparks. Data twisted into art. Fear looks holy when the world falls apart. Every rumor grows a spine, every theory grows fangs. Every shadow looks like proof when the country hangs by threads. We don't want reason, we want blood. We want someone we can drag through the mud. Was it traitors, tech bros, politicians, foreign ghosts, the wealthy, the poor, a hacker on the 24th floor? Everyone's guilty in a house so weak. We just need the name that lets us sleep. Tell us who, tell us who, tell us who. Find the culprit, find the light. Light the torches, raise the cry. Find the culprit, make them sway. Justice isn't justice when the crowd's afraid. And when they fail to find a face, they'll sharpen their knives and look somewhere darker. The next scapegoat is already breathing. We've completed our analysis. We've reviewed the data. consideration. We've located the cause of the unprecedented instability. Speculators. The reckless few who believe they could outsmart the guardians of the system. They click too fast, they chase the thrill. They bought the dip against our will. They leverage hope, they borrow fear. They made predictions we didn't engineer. They charted stars like prophets do. They saw patterns we never approved. They dared to profit while we printed laws. Behavior unbecoming of the working class. It was the speculators. Write it down. If they hadn't gambled, the system would stand. If they'd followed guidance, we'd stay in command. They distorted markets with untrained hands. We warned them gently, they didn't understand. So now the fallout must have a face. And what better target than the ones who wouldn't stay in place? It was the speculators, the thrill-chasing crowd, the ones who believed they could figure us out. It was the speculators, the charts and the trades, the rebels who played in our sacred space. Don't look at the banks, don't look at the state. We know who to blame for the mess that we made. It was the speculators. Case closed. Our mottos were stable, our policies sound, until amateurs wandered into professional ground. They doubted inflation, they doubted the Fed, they doubted the forecast we lovingly spread. They spread knowledge online without PhDs, dangerous levels of expertise. The arrogance of people who saw what we missed. Unregulated insight is the root of all risk. If you questioned our statements, you're part of the crime. If you sold at the bottom, you disrupted the line. If you bought at the top, you misread the signs. If you saw through illusions, well, that's borderline treason. Your independence is destabilization. Your clarity is disinformation. The public needs order, not educated guesses from basement traders. It was the speculators. It's easy to see they lack the credentials of our committee. It was the speculators. Their charts and beliefs, they played with the system too close to the teeth. Don't question the handbook, don't question the lies. Their freedom to think is what made markets die. It was the speculators. Always was. So we'll monitor tightly, we'll regulate order, we'll silence the voices that made this disaster. And you'll feel safer when all thought is cancelled. Because the last thing we want is another speculators. We reviewed the numbers again. We traced the patterns. We examined the trends, and the conclusion is clear. The system didn't fail the people. The people failed the system. They spend too freely, they save too slow. They wanted comfort without the growth. They bought beyond their means and wage. They didn't tighten belts in harder days. They trusted the programs, they trusted the state. They trusted support we never planned to create. They they weaken the floor. They relied on safety nets we never could sustain. They asked for guarantees we weren't prepared to maintain. They voted for relief, then begged for lower debt. They wanted both and blamed us when they didn't get it. They seek stability we can't afford, and now the fallout lands at their door. It was the poor, the hungry, the tired, the ones who believe they deserve something higher. It was the poor, their needs, their cries, their fragile hope became our demise. Don't blame the banks, don't blame the state. Pressure always cracks when people are weak. It was the poor, history repeats. They didn't budget right, they didn't plan, they didn't sacrifice like we demand. They chased small dreams, they reached too far. They bought cheap cars beneath the stars. They didn't know wealth is grown through patience, leverage, and what we own. They trusted wages to lift them higher, a charming myth we never required. We must tighten, cut, and shrink. It's time that people learn to think. Time they carry their own load. Time they pay what they are owed. A nation prospered on borrowed sand. Now every burden returns to their hands. Austerity is mercy, correction is care. The poor must raise by learning despair. It was the poor, their fragile frame, the easiest place to assign the blame. It was the poor, their endless need, their tiny debts became our creed. They drained the well, they shook the floor. We say it gently, but say it sure. It was the So brace yourself, you'll carry the cost. The weakest shoulders hold the lost. The story is ancient, this verdict pure. When power fails, it defaults to the poor. From the transmission You can only push a crowd so long before the crowd pushes back. They search for villains in every direction until their eyes finally tilted upward. It was the rich all along. They lived in towers made of debt, built empires on our second guess, turned our futures into bets, cashed the winnings, left the rest. They called in markets, called it things we couldn't quote. They sold the myth of trickle down, but gravity never trickles up. They drank champagne from shattered floors while we mopped blood and called it yours. But now the noise cuts through the patch, and every finger points to the rich. They profited it off collapse, they bought the truth, they leased the facts. They wrote the laws to guard their stash, then blamed the masses when systems crash. They won the game, they fixed the rules, they taught us patience while playing fools. But patience dies when hunger hits, and hunger's whisper turns to fists. It was the rich, say it loud. It was the rich, fueling the crowd. They took the homes, they rigged the charts. They tore the future clean apart. It was the rich, the ones ones who hid. It was the rich, don't forget what they did. Yeah, it was the rich, yeah. It was the rich, yeah. It was the rich, yeah. They told us to work, told us to save, told us to trust the lives they made. They hoarded assets, leveraged hope, turned every era into a joke. They sold us dreams on borrowed time, assigned us shame for crossing lines. They own the banks, they own the press, a perfect world of quiet, yes. But quiet breaks when truth ignites. And now their shadows burn in light. Whose land, whose wage, whose stage, whose cage, whose rules broke the spine of an entire age? They blame the traitors, blame the streets, blame the hungry, blame the weak. But every story that twists like this ends with their finger at the richest click. It was the rich, you know it is. It was the rich, that's a chant. It was the rich, we won't recant. They shaped the laws, they bent the frame. They lit the fire, then dodged the flames. It was the rich, the gilded few. It was the rich, we finally knew. Say it again. It was the rich, yeah. Say it again. It was the rich. Say it again. It was the rich. And when the flame burns upward high, the rich go quiet and crowds don't lie. History repeats in violent scripts, and every fall begins like this, with a whisper. Turning into us. We've traced the origin of the collapse. After extensive review, deep analysis, and a thorough audit of all internal processes, we have determined that the error did not originate with leadership, policy, or human oversight. The fault lies elsewhere, the fault lies in the code. It was the data. The charts misread the markets, the model skewed the trend, the algorithm promised safety right up to the bitter end. Our forecast showed stability, our graphs were neat and clean, the numbers all agreed with the fantasy machine. So if the truth unraveled beneath your feet and mine, understand the data lied. Not us, not this time. inputs were corrupted, the outputs rearranged. The AI flagged anomalies we couldn't ascertain. We followed the predictions as written on the screens. Graphs more holy than any human being. We warned you volatility was part of the design, but volatility unheard of is not a fault of mine. A bug in the matrix, a glitch in the feed, a small oversight in the data we need, an error in training, a missing piece, a flawed regression we failed to see, a faulty indicator, a silent drift, nothing political, just a technical shift. If reality collapsed in a violent cascade, the culprit crawled from lines of It was the data, we're innocent. It was the data, we're innocent. It was the data, the faulty arrays, it led us astray. We had followed the phrase, it was the data. Don't look at the hands who built the illusion that swallowed the land. It was the data, that simple, that clean, the perfect excuse for a broken regime. And if the models are what made us fall, remember who designed them all, but blame the numbers, not the ones who typed them. It was the data. End of question.
Yeah. Look, let's be honest, cause honestly, honesty's overdue. The system didn't fall, it just finally followed through. Decades of duct tape doctrines, boxed in options, bad economics dressed like Wall Street pamphlets. But the rot was obvious, dog, the math been toxic. They kept the market sedated, inflated, rated, called it stability. Really just feared it's decorated. Whole thing shaky like withdrawals, policy flaws stacking tall. Gravity catching bodies like it's taking last calls. Press the panic button, then the money button. Manic, hand twitching, frantic, same cycle, different semantics. That Xanax metaphor, yeah, I meant it. Systemic, they thought printing dopamine was somehow monetary mechanics. Now everybody want a culprit, cute little public confession. But blaming one dude for this mess is a timeless comprehension. This collapse ain't personal, it's cumulative tension. The bill ain't random, it's the sum of every dumb decision they pension. Blame who? Blame time, blame debt, blame math, blame truth, blame the slope they smooth over with political glue. It's not me, not you, just the overdue consequence finally pushing through. The speculators dance cause the beat said move. Don't blame the dancer when the tempo grooves. Don't blame the poor when the system bleeds. Don't blame the rich when the script misleads. They all play roles in the show to guarantee the stampede. Central banks panic, gasp, grasp, mask and collapse with graphs. They half-fast, try to tap dance past facts, fast track, last minute fixes. But you can't outpace physics with gimmicks. Interest compounding like a villain with vengeance. Bending the curve to the curve ends friendships. And they still swore resilience in interviews. Sounding confused, refusing the clues where reality hit its fuse and diffuse the rules. Truth is, entropy builds even when nobody moves. Truth is, systems crack exactly how they groove. Truth is, every lie they approve made the ceiling collapse with more weight than the floor could prove. Now they shocked, please. This is structural fatigue, not a mystery disease. I'm just here translating the stress in the speech, breaking down the breach like a scholar on bleach. Point fingers, cute, blame the line, blame the climb, blame the math they skewed. This ain't one man's fault, it's the whole design's skewed. It ain't me, ain't you, just a universal legend doing what legends do. Point fingers, cute, blame the line, blame the climb, blame the math they skewed. This ain't one man's fault, it's the whole design's skewed. It ain't me, ain't you, just a universal universal ledgers doing what ledgers do.
Spend long enough ignoring the soap, you convince yourself it's flat. But that's remember pressure, and pressure always pushes back. Not a villain, not a cool, just the truth finally asking, you ready to pay what's due?
Alright, look, after the blame dies down and the noise evaporates, you start seeing truth in the cracks where the stories fabricate. Silence don't lie, it just shows you what's accurate. Shows you how the scapegoats were props in the narrative. All that chaos was theater, panic packaged like nature. People yelling who did it, when the who was the paper. Decades of pressure don't burst from a bad actor. It's architecture, stress till collapse becomes the answer. They want a witch hunt cute, burn whoever fits the mood. But the moment that smoke clears, you see the furnace is the room. It ain't personal, it's physics, ain't random, it's sequence. Collapse don't need culprits, it just needs inconvenience.
After the blame,
the truth remains.
after the noise,
You hear the frame,
when the panic fades,
then the fingers drop. You see the rot was in the scaffold and not the props. Look, every villain they pitched was a script with a pulse. Cause it's easier to hate a face than admit a system convulsed. Blame's a ritual dance, a psychological crutch. A little story they clutch when the collapse hits too much. But facts ain't flexible, they stubborn as ledges. They sit quiet for years till the weight makes them beggars. You can't hide fractures under banners and metrics. You can't dodge consequences with slogans or ethics. Truth hits slow, then sudden. The way avalanches function starts quiet, ends violent. Whole mountains get to crunching, and after it falls and the dust stops thumping, you finally recognize that the culprit was assumption. Not greed, not fear, not the faces you jeered. Just the architecture cracking cause no one maintained the gears.
after the blame,
The echoes fade,
after the fall,
the cost is paid,
when the noise is gone,
and you clear the haze. You see collapse ain't a villain, it's just momentum that obeys. Everybody wants the drama, nobody wants the math. Everybody wants a monster, nobody wants the past. But after the whole thing breaks and the room goes black, you finally stop asking who did this and start asking what does it say about us. That's when the next chapter starts. The mirror, the glitch, the question you can't duck. Who am I when the blame runs out? And who are you when the story snaps and the truth points back?